Welcome to Blue Talks.
How to change a pattern. It is a very boring title. I know. I better be very entertaining up here. The good news is, before I began traveling and giving talks with questionably boring titles, I was a Hollywood actress for 20 years. Hopefully I learned something. Thank you for letting me share a little more about myself. I'd love to know a little more about you as well. By show of hands, how many of you have used your intuition to make a major life decision? Cool, thank you. How many of you have ever ignored your intuition? Maybe you swiped left and you knew you should have swiped right. How did that go for you? Intuition is your ability to know something instantly. And every human on the planet comes equipped with this technology. So how does your intuition work? Your intuition works by asking questions. Perhaps if you don't yet consider yourself a highly intuitive person, or you don't think that your intuition is working on point, you might just be asking the wrong questions. And where do the answers come from? The answers come from the Akash. Akash is a Sanskrit word that means ether. Ether is primordial energy, and it's all around us in every moment, even right here in this room. I told you this was interesting, and as interesting as this conversation is, still most people do not care about their intuition or getting answers from this field. Because when you think about intuition, you think about soothsayers with one, maybe two teeth. Or maybe you think about palm readers whose office is a spot down on Venice Beach, heavily burning incense. I think that's incense. Is that incense? Or maybe you think of gypsies who wear way too much gold jewelry. And I agree with you, these characters are not quite fully legit. But let me remind you that I am a professional actress turned psychic, so you're in great hands today. And it's my job to change the narrative, to link this conversation about intuition and getting answers from the Akash to something that you actually care about. Maybe teach you a little something that'll serve you, like how to change a pattern. Perhaps even get a little sciencey on you. Not too sciencey, because I am already at risk of being highly boring. But I do have one slide for you. That's right, one slide in my whole presentation. But the brilliance of this slide is that it tells you everything you need to know about a pattern. Patterns repeat themselves. The brilliance of this slide is that it tells you everything you need to know about a pattern. Patterns repeat themselves. The brilliance of this slide. Thank you. Thank you. All right. In all seriousness, before we move on, I want you to think about how impactful this is. If patterns repeat themselves, good or bad, your ability to change a pattern is the key to your highest success. I'm going to invite you to lay your hand on your heart and think about what pattern in your life, if you could learn to shift today, would change your life forever. Good, you got it? All right, let's dissect this slide. This slide comes from scientist Greg Braden. Z equals Z squared plus C. Z is your pattern. Z squared is your pattern repeating itself. Plus C, C is a new circumstance. So let me give you an example. Let's say that your pattern is that you are highly affected by your outward environment. Anybody feel like they have that pattern? Z squared It's a Wednesday. You wake up on a Wednesday, you've got your outward environment to deal with again. Plus C, the circumstance today is that you've invited your best friend Susie to lunch because you have a brand new idea for a book. And Susie is your biggest cheerleader. And Susie is also highly creative. And you love running your ideas by Susie because she gives you great creative advice. But the problem is that Susie is late. Again. Because Susie has patterns too. And as you wait for Susie, you are getting highly irritated. Let's look at the impact of this irritation. Chances are this irritation is going to build and build and build inside of you. And chances are you're not going to leave this irritation at the restaurant. You're going to take this irritation back to the office with you. And it's going to affect your productivity for the rest of the day. Anybody ever experienced having your work productivity go down because of your inward state? And chances are you're also not going to leave this irritation at the office. Chances are you're taking it home with you. And it's going to affect how you talk to your children later that night. It's going to affect how you interact with your spouse. And this is just how the pattern is affecting your interpersonal relationships. Let's look at how this pattern is going to affect your health. As you begin getting increasingly irritated and your stressful state increases, your body creates cortisol. And while cortisol is a natural response to stress, too much cortisol will affect your health. Too much cortisol will affect your sleep. Anybody had poor sleep over the course of the last week? Cortisol will affect your weight. Wah wah. Too much cortisol will create a state of inflammation in the body. And we know that inflammation is the cause of 95% of all disease. It's true. Too much cortisol will affect your heart. So can we agree that this is an undesired outcome? And this is just how this outcome affects you. I hope you don't transfer this a-holery to your waiter, and your waiter holds this state of irritation, and the waiter becomes an a-hole to everybody else in his life just because Susie was an a-hole. Because now not only do you have bad health, you also have bad karma. You got a real problem now. So what's causing this outcome? The cause of this outcome is actually your intuition working perfectly, but completely against you. Remember, your intuition is your ability to know something instantly, and you're getting answers from the field. As you ask questions, rapid fire questions in your mind. And the questions that you're asking probably look something like this. Susie, why is she always late? Susie is always late. Why do I even ask Susie to lunch when I know she's going to be late? Why is she even my best friend? Actually, Susie's not my best friend. Susie is an a-hole who only cares about herself. And 2 minutes ago, Susie was your best friend. These questions that you're asking yourself are creating a state within your being. To change a pattern, you must change your response. And to change your response, you must ask yourself different questions. This field of intelligence that's all around us, this data of superconscious intelligence that's designed to help us, this field can only help you and only answer the questions that you ask. So what happens when you change the question? This is where people start getting really excited. They say, but Emily, what question should I ask? Well, that's already a better question. And remember, for every one problem, there are infinite number of solutions. Pick one. I'll give you some examples. How about, with a sincere heart, asking yourself, why do I always ask Susie to lunch if she's always late and I know she's going to be late? When I listen for the answer, maybe I learn about myself that I'm addicted to drama. Or how about this question? I asked Susie to lunch in the first place because I wanted her creative opinion. What if I were Susie? What advice would I give myself? Perhaps when I listen for the answer, I discover a creative angle that I hadn't seen before. Or my personal favorite, how can I become more empowered in this moment? Remember, the nature of your consciousness can be measured by the questions you ask. And the questions you ask can help you change any pattern. I'm Emily Harrison, founder, director of the Akashic Academy. Thank you.